In an interview on Fox News last night, President Trump went after 3 Democratic governors who have been critical of the federal government's response to the coronavirus outbreak in the U.S. New York's Andrew Cuomo, Michigan's Gretchen Whitmer, and Washington State's Jay Inslee. Most notably, Trump questioned Cuomo's statement about how many ventilators New York needs.
New York is a bigger deal, but it's going to go also. But I have a feeling that a lot of the numbers that are being said in some areas are just bigger than they're going to be. I don't believe you need 40,000 or 30,000 ventilators. You know, you go into major hospitals sometimes, they'll have 2 ventilators. And now all of a sudden they're saying, can we order 30,000 ventilators? Your governor of Michigan, I mean, she's not stepping up. I don't know if she knows what's going on, but all she does is sit there and blame the federal government. She doesn't get it done, and we send her a lot. Now she wants a declaration of emergency, and, we'll have to make a decision on that. But Michigan is a very important state. I love the people of Michigan, what they do. I'm the one, I'm bringing back many, many car factories into Michigan, and she is a new governor, and it's not been pleasant. We have people like Governor Inslee. He should be doing more. He shouldn't be relying on the federal government. Governor Inslee, that's the state of Washington. He was a failed presidential candidate, and, he's always complaining.
So putting aside the fact that it is incredible that this president is lashing out at governors and criticizing them and mocking them at this time, Jonathan Lemire, his refusal to use the Defense Production Act, his refusal to actually organize this from the top and streamline the production of supplies to get them to the states, only he has the power to do that. And President Trump is choosing not to help states deal with this crisis in the most quick and effective way. Let me say it again. President Trump is making the choice to not help the states in the most quick and effective way. He's making that choice and leaving this to them. And now I fear, Jonathan Lemire, and I wonder if you agree with this, what you see happening is the next phase of this county by county plan, which looks like total chaos, basically leaving it to the counties to figure out how to separate themselves from, worst to best. This is insanity, and I wonder what the governor's reactions must have been when they got this letter yesterday with this ridiculous plan.
So governors, Mika, are at the front line of this pandemic and have been from the beginning. And there is a great debate in state houses across the country as to how to best approach the federal government. Do you try to fight, or do you try to flatter President Trump? It's that dynamic where governors are making decisions. They know they need federal response. They can't do it on their own. So they're trying to deal with a unique situation, a president who pays an unprecedented amount of attention to, in particular, media coverage and how the governors treat him. And that's what we're seeing the last couple of days. My colleague and I, we reported on this story just yesterday, before news of this phone call the president had with the governors, which I'll get to in a second, including Governor Cuomo, who told aides about a week or so ago. At the time, he was deeply frustrated with the federal response, but he figured the best way to motivate the president to do more would actually be to go on TV and flatter him, even though at that moment, Cuomo felt the president hadn't done anything to warrant that praise. But he did. And he did then again later in a private phone call with the president told people around him that, hey, Andrew Cuomo, he said really nice things about me, and then changed his own rhetoric to the governor. Now, we have seen the last couple of days, it has now changed back. That has been very hot and cold. But yesterday in the interview with Fox News reflects what happened earlier in the day in a phone call the president had with the governors, in which Jay Inslee really urged him to step up because the president had said to them, and this is the message we're getting from him over and over, that the states should play the primary role, and the federal government, even though it has vastly larger resources, will be their backup, will help as needed. And Jay Inslee said to him in that call, we don't need a backup, we need a Tom Brady, meaning we need a starting star quarterback to lead the way. We need a president to take the helm here. And Trump, irritated by that on the call, and then we heard it again last night, is looking for the states to step up. And that's also why with the Defense Production Act, Mika, as a final point, he has been reluctant to say it because this, in a way, keeps the onus on the states rather than the federal government's mobilization if things take a turn for the worse.
So really quickly, Zeke Emanuel, and I know we want to get to John Meacham, but the concern is every day when the president sort of throws out these bombs, that he's deflecting from our total incompetence at this point because there is no mass testing. How far away are we from real testing across the board? Not some testing for some testing for others, testing that doesn't match. How far away are we from being out of the dark?
Honestly, Mika, I don't know, because we've had so many mistakes with the testing. I do think we have massively improved the testing, but it's nowhere near adequate. We have about 400,000 or 500,000 tests in this country, comparable to South Korea, and yet we're 7 times larger than South Korea. So it gives you a sense of how far behind. And we have to do smart testing. It's not just test. We need to know what the prevalence in the community is. We need to have some good surveys. And we need to also begin testing people who aren't asymptomatic. The threshold for testing still remains way too high, and getting the results is too long. I just got an email yesterday from a professor out in California. 9 days they've been waiting for the result. That is totally unacceptable. And again, this is just time we wasted between January and now, not getting things arranged and having multiple mistakes along the way to get testing out. And the last thing I would say is we need to pull that testing out of hospitals. You don't need health professionals risking getting sick and having lots of people who might have coronavirus right near hospitals. We have to get it all out of the hospitals and healthcare system into these mobile drive-through, walk-up places. That's just as important, because we need to keep those people who might be positive away from a hospital emergency room where there may be people who aren't positive.
John Meacham, it's been fascinating to watch as Jonathan Lemire just reported out. These governors learn what world leaders have learned over the last 3 years in dealing with Donald Trump, and that is that flattery might end up getting you what you need in a crisis. It might end up getting you those ventilators and PPE. Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, who's known Donald Trump for decades, clearly knows this and has known this for a long time. So they've sort of had to tap dance around the personality that's in the Oval Office to get literally life-saving protection, life-saving equipment. And there have been moments, you heard Governor Cuomo say, for the life of me, I don't understand why we haven't invoked the Defense Production Act. But by and large, they've learned that flattery is the way to get what you need from this president.
Yeah, and it's fundamentally un-American. I mean, one of the reasons we fought the American Revolution was to avoid having our fates be subject to the whims of a king. At least in the popular imagination, that was a central force behind the creation of the Republic. America was supposed to put reason at the center of the national enterprise. And I can't imagine another situation which is more designed, or better for the centrality of data and the dictates of science. And the fact that this sounds partisan is heartbreaking, but we're living in a polarized pandemic. It's incredible. We've managed now to take everything, including a life and death, invisible and totally chaos-inducing disease, and turn it into a red-blue issue. My heart sank last night when I was looking at the map of the outbreaks and realized how closely it seems to track the red-blue county-by-county map. I'd urge folks to look at that, because I think, tragically, there's going to be some reflection of there's clearly a reflection of how people view the virus with their political views. And one of the things we have to figure out a way to do in the midst of the fear, in the midst of the anxiety, is, can we follow the data? Can we follow the doctors? And can the doctors, to go to your point, resist that monarchical pressure to make the king happy? Seems to me that's a central obligation of the medical professionals and of the citizens. You know, if there's any way at all, let's try not to fall into this ambient tribalism. You know, you can disagree with the president on everything, and still think maybe he has a point on this or that. You can be for the president on just about everything and think, you know what, I think he's got that wrong. That's called reason, right? That's called America. You know, you follow the data. And at this point, it's a matter of life and death.
Yeah.
I mean, Mika, if you dare raise hell, right, and you, sorry, Mika, I was just going to say, if you dare raise hell, because literally the life of your citizens depends on it, he calls into Sean Hannity's show and rips you as a failed presidential candidate. That's the balance these governors are looking at.
Yeah, but the lesson is, no matter what you do, he won't be there for you when you need him, and he'll turn on you in a heartbeat. So I don't know. Maybe that approach just puts off the inevitable. But we'll stick to facts here, because I do agree with John Meacham. As you watch this pandemic sort of play out, it is so polarized at this time, given where we were before it broke out. But look at this fact. In Palm Beach County, Florida, okay, where there are many, many senior citizens, where Mar-a-Lago sits, population of 1.4 million Floridians. Here's how many tests have been given. 1,166. That's 0.1% of the third largest county in the state, and also an area that is supposed to be the next hot spot. We are way behind. And the folks on the front lines who are predicting a horror show in places like New York City, I don't know. I'm not sure how they turned this around at this point. Still ahead on Morning Joe, from our NBC affiliate in Boston, surging coronavirus cases in New York prompt serious measures in New England. We'll talk to Boston Mayor Marty Walsh about his city's fight against the pandemic straight ahead. But first, as Dr. Emanuel writes, Trump's not a doctor. He's only playing one on TV. And the president was at it again last night. Morning Joe is back in a moment.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.